Okay, so good day. We're learning Tanya. We're in the introduction, the Hagdama, page Dalid, about 10 lines from the bottom. The line, it's the last word on the line. It starts with the word Umi. Umi Shaddai Tzara. The Alter Rebbe, in this very important letter that sets the tone for the importance of Tanya, and how Tanya is a sefer, a book that has all the answers. That's what he says. It has kol hatshuvas, has all the answers for all the questions that all of you have been asking me for many, many years. Remember, the Alter Rebbe from Tov Kuf Mem Gimel, which is 1783 till 1793 approximately, was guiding Hasidim, not just Chabad Hasidim, but everyone in that area. Belarusia was called at the time, White Russia. He was appointed by Reb Mendel of Vitebsk to lead them, okay? And they came and spoke to him about their spiritual issues, how to daven better, how to learn better, how to get rid of foreign thoughts and everything else. And the Hasidim had a complaint when the Alter Rebbe told him, I can no longer see you personally because it's just overwhelming. And he made what was called takonis lojna. Once the Alter Rebbe moved to Lojna, he made takonis that you can't come up more than once a year, and only on Shabbos Mevorchim, and it's in a group. Mamish, it wasn't a free for all anymore because he couldn't accommodate everyone's personal needs. So he said, instead of that, I'm going to write for you a sefer, a book, the Tanya. So he asks in this introduction. He says, how can a book be a substitute for meeting you face to face? Please mute yourself. Someone has himself not muted, please. So he said that how can it be a substitute when you meet someone face to face? Even if the person is walking in darkness, the person is in trouble spiritually, the Rebbe, the Tzaddik, can guide him directly. But if you have to take it out of a sefer and you don't see the light that's in the sefer, the advice, you don't see it because you're in darkness, you can have the best book, it won't help you. Number two, he argued on behalf of Hasidim that even if I'm not walking in darkness, my eyes are open, each sefer is different, each book is different. And you won't find in it the particular advice for your particular problem. So how can a book be a substitute for Yechidus? When you come into Yechidus, you tell the Rebbe, this is my problem. Today, this is my issue. Next year, this is my issue. And the Rebbe each time gives you tailor-made advice. That was the question that was on the first page of the Hagdama. And on page Dalit, the paragraph that begins with Ach b'yodoy makira, which we learned last year, Dr. Rebbe basically said, I know each and every one of you. Because for 10 years, you've been coming to see me. And I know the issues. We've been in constant touch. What's bothering you? So therefore, I have included in here the specific advice for your particular issue. So the fact that you argue that you need me to talk to face, and my book won't address your issue, it does address your issue because I know you. I also shared with you what the Messiah, the tradition of Chabad, is that doesn't apply only to those that the Alter Rebbe knew at the time, but it applies to all people, regardless, Hasidic, not Hasidic, who will learn the Tanya till Mashiach Tzidkenu, and even after Mashiach Tzidkenu. I explained that last time at length. I think it's very important for you to hear that and understand that, because otherwise, someone will say to you, or in a shul, listen, the Tanya Dalfin Rebbe wrote for people 200 years ago, people he knew personally. It doesn't apply to me today. And if that's the argument and that's the position, you can close the book. You shouldn't even look at it. You can look at it, but it's meaningless because he's telling you this is a book of advice. The first section of Tanya, all the 53 chapters, is to guide you in Avodas Hashem, like he did with the people that he saw face to face. So I explained that last year, and I'm not going to repeat it. Now, we're left with the first question. How can this sefer, this book, the Tanya, be a book for each and every one of us if we're walking in darkness. And walking in darkness doesn't mean necessarily you're a transgressor and a sinner and a bad person. You woke up on the wrong side in the morning, or you have to pay your bills and you're worried and your head's all over the place. Or Moshe has to drive to Beitar to get parchment. And then he has to drive to take his parents. And then he has to go here, he has to go there. You know, how do you have the mindset at the same time to be able to think about, you know, this morning when I davened, I said, Ashri, I thought about the hot dogs I'm going to have for dinner. Or something else. It's like, how does that, you know, it disturbs my davening. And the Alter Rebbe in the Tanya will give us advice how to deal with those issues. Chapters 26 to 34, he deals with all kinds of thoughts at particular times, and he says, when do you have the thoughts? What are the thoughts? And he analyzes them, right? So even if I'm not a bad person, and I'm a frum person, and I'm a chassid and everything else, but nevertheless, the olam hazeh, the worldly matters that we all encounter, schlep us down, and that's appropriate because, as I told you, today's my Yom Moledis, so I just came from the oil, which I also wrote for all of you without your names, but I wrote for all my talmidim. They should have atzlocha in their personal lives, in their family lives, and communal lives. So I'm coming. You're welcome. I'm coming fresh from the oil at 5 in the morning, thinking I'd be back much earlier, but the traffic on the Belt Parkway at 6 in the morning is awful. So I'll know next year I have to get there at 4 in the morning. Anyway, so
happy birthday.
Thank you, Yasher Koyach. So
thanks for the bracha.
Yeah. So the point is that a person's Yom Moledis and a person who go, you know, Gashmias schleps a person down. As much as you want to be Ruchni, you want to be, you know, living in Tzfas in the clouds, you got to pay your bills. Otherwise, you got to snore. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You have a family. You got to bring parnasa to them. So this is the question. How does the Tanya address these issues? So this is what we're going to learn now. The Alter Rebbe says, you know what? I hear you. You're confounded because of various reasons. Therefore, I have, in each community, I have older Hasidim, older people, wiser people, people who've gone through life, experienced people, go to them. And I think this is a very important thing for people Bechlal and Yidden Befrat. The idea of going to elders, you know, we live in a society, we're considered old folks already. Anyone that has any tinge of white, you know, is an old geezer, as they say. And people like young people. It's this way in the yeshiva world, you know. The older person, has 30 years experience and understands the student much better. Nevertheless, the outer trimmings of how he or she looks and the seniority is not respected enough today. It was different. It used to be different, but unfortunately, there's a loss of respect for zikna. And the Torah says, "V'hodarta Pnei Zokin." You should respect the face of the elder. Doesn't mean your older father only. Take care of your older father, your older mother, that's for sure. But it means that the whole realm of respect for someone who is experienced, you know, David's a dentist, you know, Isser's a doctor. You know, I had an issue a few months ago, and I went to a 75-year-old doctor, the head of the department over here, and a Yale graduate, and, you know, I felt great. I'm going to an expert. Why? He's 75 years old. He has 40, 50 years under his belt. I'm just saying, the Alter Rebbe here, what we're going to learn now, says the same thing. You got to go to the seniors. You got to go to the elders. When you find that you're not finding an answer to your problems, go to them and let them show you how in this and this section in Tanya, there's an answer for your particular problem. And this is true today. What the Alter Rebbe writes applies today. That when a person seeks, we're not talking now about a rabbi, a rav giving a psak. That's another discussion. Talking about on a spiritual matter, a counselor, a mentor, a guide, in Hebrew, a mashpia, a madrich, a mashgiach in the sense of caring for your spiritual side. The people who are older, they have more of that information. There's always an exception, but by and large, that's the case. And that's what he says in today's, in what we're going to learn now. So let's read that inside now, and we'll go from there. Umi. So we're about 10 lines to the bottom, page Dalet. The last word on the line, umi. Umi, shedaitik tzara, someone whose mind is katzer, is short, can't pick up the information in the Sefer Tanya for his or her particular problem. The person's mind can't find the eitzah, the advice, from these pamphlets that I'm publishing. Yifreis sichosei, the individual should share, expand his conversation lifnei hagdolim shebeirei, before the elders within his city. Veheim, and they yevainenuhu, they should explain it to him. We're talking about people who learn Tanya and know the Tanya. If you're going to a Litvak who never learned the Tanya, if he didn't, then he won't be able to explain it to you. Talking about Veheim yevainenuhu, those elders that do understand the Tanya and can guide you in your particular problem from the words of Tanya, those are the people you should go to. This is also important. And the Rebbe said this many times. You go to
we're doing now.
Yeah. You go to a dentist for dental problems. You don't go to a dentist for psychological problems. And if you do, you're in deep trouble. Although they say, David, right, that when the dentist opens your mouth and looks in, sometimes you can see other issues in the body that you need to be aware of. But
issues frequently.
Yeah. Okay. True.
The difference between dental health and mental health is only one letter.
Very good. That's very good. So anyway, the point is, you go to a shuster, a shoe man for the shoes. You don't go to a shuster for your internal organs. So, Alter Rebbe is saying here, you have to go to the right people. Not saying, I went to the rabbi, and the rabbi couldn't explain to me the spiritual. The rabbi never said that he knows Chassidus, he knows Tanya, or that he deals with these matters. And by the way, over the years, we had other Rebbes who told some of their Hasidim. I think of Boviv now in Crown Heights when he lived there. They came. My son, my daughter is a hippie, is rebelling, and the Baba Rebbe said, for that you got to go on Eastern Parkway to 770. The Baba Rebbe, he can deal with that. I can't. And I'm sure that Rebbe said about certain things, I can't deal with certain issues. Go to the Bavaver. It's not the end of the world. Everyone has to know what they're good at. And it's just a very important lesson in life. When you start giving advice for what you don't know and not good at, you're doing a terrible thing. You're messing up the person. The honest thing to do is send them to the right address. And really a good Rav, a good rabbi, that's a good Rav and rabbi. That they know in this field they don't know, for whatever reason. They didn't study it, or they didn't master it, etc. But they send them to the right address. That's a good Rav. That's a good mashpia. So the Alter Rebbe says here, going back to the text, they will explain it to him. V'haleihem. Now the Alter Rebbe is giving them a jab. V'haleihem bekoshosi My request to you elders, Shlilosum Yad Lepeh, don't put your hand over your mouth. Lisnaig Banova, to conduct yourself with modesty. But what type of modesty? Look at the next three words, Chevra. V'shiflush shel sheker. Modesty that is a lie. You're the biggest egomaniac. You are the world's greatest pianist. The shul comes to you, says, we're having a fundraiser and do us a favor, play. And you say, no, I don't know how to play the piano. Go to him, go to her. That's gaiva. That's gaiva. If you say, look, I'd love to play, but I have a fee, that's my parnasa, which there are many performers like that, okay. And you negotiate, you work it out. But to say, I don't have the talent, well, you're known worldwide that you are the man. So the shiflu shel sheker. And by the way, this happens often. Not even on a grandiose way, even a small way where people will say, nah, not me, go somewhere else. In shul, Moshe's a gabbai. It's nice to have different bali tefillah. Not every Shabbos to have the same one, right? Because you get pretty bored, the congregation, right? Unless you have a hired chazan, I'm not talking about that. You go over to someone who you know has a nice voice, and he knows the nusach, and people like him. It's not that he's someone that people don't like. And you say, could you daven for the Amud? And he says, no, I don't know. Ask people, other people. This happens every time. It happens so often in shuls, you know. In a way, it's shiflu shel sheker. You're not being modest. It's false modesty. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says here. You elders know.
Isn't there in that particular example of asking somebody daven? Isn't there a halacha that you should refuse?
No, not in that sense. Not in that way. No, that. Not. You could maybe refuse the first time, but when a shul needs, what do you mean they refuse? So we shouldn't have about tefillah hillel. No one should go to the Amud. No,
I've always been confused by this by this din.
No, there's an idea not to run to the Amud. Like they say, some people the word in Yiddish for the Amud is brettel. Brettel means a board. It used to be that the chazan's stand was a board, a piece of wood. So the expression is gleich de brettel. He loves the board. He loves running over every time. That's also not, modest. Yes, Moshe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in covered love, I wasn't, forgive me for, I know, I'm aware of what Hill's talking about. I think there is an halacha concept of person, let's say, refusing like up to 3 times, to go up to the Amud because they don't want to appear as being gaiva. They don't want to appear like they're like running to the Amud. But I just want to say that there's no question that this is definitely in terms of gabayas, and I mean I'm sure other people have dealt with this before. This falls into the 5th chapter of Shulchan Aruch, the fifth chelik of Shulchan Aruch, that you have to know who you're dealing with, and there's definitely a time when you need someone to daven. It's happened so many times. You're going around asking someone to daven, and like this one says no, this one says no, this one says no. It's like, meanwhile, you as a gaba, you're not davening because you have to take time out of your entire morning to ask someone to daven. So there's a balance, obviously.
Right. I want to finish, but I have more to say. At another point, people who use this, Dr. Rebbe is saying over here, when you use this as an excuse, it's gaiva. There's a difference between a modest answer and a gaiva answer, and trust me, it's recognizable. Okay, let's go on. So I understand and agree with what you're saying, but I don't agree that it should be used and flaunted And really, it's really all gaiva, and that's what he's talking about here. You know what I'm saying? You're looking for a derech and Hashem, and you have an issue with this particular issue. You go over to someone who can help you, and they'll say, no, I don't know. Go to someone else. That's a cop out. Okay, let's go on. Chas v'sholem, the Alter Rebbe says to these elders, don't act with shiful shel sheker, with false modesty. Chas v'sholem. Ukenoida oidish hamar, and the Alter Rebbe, he's very, very tough on them. And he has to be tough on them, because otherwise they don't get it. Listen what he says. As is known, the bitter punishment. That's very heavy language. Einish hamar. Al moinei abar. Someone who prevents food, meaning to say sustenance, who withholds the answers. And simultaneously the opposite, the goydel aschar. It's known how the great reward for someone who shares with others. Mimaymer Azal, from the saying of the sages, I'll post it on the verse, Meir Einish Neim Hashem. God illuminates both people, the person who explains and the person who listens. Ki yoyir Hashem ponev aleim, God shines his countenance on them. Oir Pnei Melech Chaim, the light of the living King. And from the life, we will merit the days when Mashiach will come. One will not have to teach the other, because everyone will know it, will have the information. Why? Because we'll all know God. Mashiach will come, everything will be revealed, so we won't have to ask someone else for the meeting. Is
that a quote?
Yes. Yes,
it's a quote from the Navi?
Yes, a note to the Navi. I think Yishai, I don't remember. The Rambam brings this, of course. The earth will be filled with the knowledge of God. After, now, the Alter Rebbe now addressed another issue. Okay. So we had the pamphlets disseminated. Why do we have to print it in a sefer? That's what he tells you now. I spoke it out already in previous Yurim, but here it's in the Akdama. The pamphlets were publicized all over by various scribes, but look at the wording. Shoinin u'mishunim. Mishunim means strange. He's referring to the forgery that was made specially by the Mistagdim to make mistakes in the Tanya pamphlets as they copied it, so that to get the Alter Rebbe Chassidim into trouble. So therefore, it's been brought to my attention in the Ayidei, next page.
I'm not familiar with that story. Can you explain it?
Sure. It's a short story. Basically, there were two Chabad Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe, and they were somewhere in the city, and the pamphlets of the Tanya came to the shuls over there, and someone said that they printed 1,500 copies, I think. They said, fine, let us see it. Oh, and they didn't know that that who they're talking to are Chabad Chassidim. Yidden, Chassidim, right? And they took a look, and they saw mistakes, blatant mistakes, forgery. So they understood already that this was done purposely. They said, you know what? Here, we want to buy all the 1,000 copies that were left or whatever. And they bought it all. And they told the Alter Rebbe, and that's the Alter Rebbe said, it's time to put it into a sefer. That once it's in a sefer, you can't recopy it on, this is the book. That's the story. So he alludes to it here with the words, Mishunim. Right? Seifrim, Shoinim, various scribes. Umishunim means like weird, strange. Meaning those that made the copies in a way that created forgery. Hine, Ayedei Dibur, next page 8. Ribi HaTok Shoinish, they came out many copies. Ribi Kumei Ribi HaTos Seifrim. So because of all these copies, there came out mistakes, including printing mistakes, copy mistakes. Many of them. Therefore, through the generosity of special people that he mentioned earlier in the approbation, those Rabbi Shalom Shachna and the other one, Me'ever Ladaf from the other page, they exerted their bodies and their spirit, meaning that, they invested into this project, to bring the pamphlets to print. Minuki mikol tzig v'toy sefer. Tes Sabach is an acronym, To'os Sefer. Pure from any, schmutz, any mistakes, and mistakes. U'megoyim heitif, and very well checked. Says the Alter Rebbe. Stop. V'hamina l'fola teva. I say, for this good deed, Yasher Chela, thank you. V'liyois kiboli mikli adibur akos. It's an open verse that says, Or masik v'urei eyu, someone who steals the person's border will be cursed. It's in the Torah. Or boy v'klola by nidui, and the Chazal add 3 different types of curses, excommunications, called Ur, Klola, and Nidui, God forbid. In other words, someone who goes and opens a butcher shop right next to an existing butcher shop, it's called Hasagas Gvul. From the word Masig over here on the 4th, 5th line, the last word, Masig Gvul, stealing the border. A lot of halachas about this, and a lot of din Torahs about this. 2 shuls next to each other. Is there an issue? Probably not, because it's Torah. But on and on. This is a very big issue. But the Alter Rebbe is saying here, hey, this is a sefer that we printed, and printers have the right to print it, and those that will take it and reprint it, it's you're starting up, and the Torah and the Chazal have very strict words about that. Al Kain, therefore, Ki Yehuda v'oid l'kra. This is a statement brought in the Gemara. Yehuda, Judah, Yehuda v'oid l'kra. And in addition to the verse, in other words, Alter Rebbe is saying, I don't have to tell you that you're not allowed to reprint it, but I'm going to anyway, because the Torah and Chazal already have warned you of stealing the border, reprinting. Okay? So therefore, Kosina, Yehuda v'oid l'kra Kosina, I come to add to the existing information about not doing it, reprinting it. Lemish de Guderabba, I'm throwing a large fence. I'm making a large fence. It's a poetic kind of. Al kol matfisim, for all the printers in the region. Shalei hatfis kuntreisim, and now you have no permission to reprint the kuntreisim. Not yourself, not through someone that you hire and you hide behind the scenes. No. Without the explicit permission of those 2 individuals who printed the Tanya that we mentioned on the earlier page, Reb Shalom Shachna and the other person. If they give you permission, you got permission. If they don't give you permission, I don't care if it's indirect and it's already you brokered it out and all the stuff that people unfortunately do, you're not allowed to do. Meshech HaMeshonim, 5 years. I asked some of my friends if they know why 5 years. So one of my friends, who's a big Talmud Chacham, he says that at that time, the late 1790s, in that period, it was a 5-year ban that printers put on the Sfarim. That's the way it was at that time. I think later it became more because so many people. But at that time, 1 second, here it was 5 years. Let me just finish the 2 lines and I'll take a question. So don't reprint it. You're not allowed to print it for 5 years. From the day when this Tanya is printed. Those that will listen to this, they'll have sweetness, and they'll have good blessing. So is the words, and again, he doesn't mention his name, the compiler. Who is the compiler? The compiler. The compiler writes this, Lekuti Amorim, who's compiled sayings, collection of sayings, Haniskir El. Yes, Hillel, what do you want?
No, I just want to ask about that 5-year point that you were making. Was that like the industry standard at the time? If you published a sefer, you had like a gvul for 5 years?
Yes.
That sort of idea?
Yes.
Okay.
Why they chose 5 years, I don't know. And I think that there was a change in that after that it even went for more years. But at the time, it was 5 years. It wasn't only for Hasidus Svarim, it was the whole industry of printing. Yeah. This is the end of the Hakdama, and this now we'll start learning in next year, Monday, Tanya. Yes, Yonis. Yeah.
I remember that if you can't find a mashpia who's old enough, find somebody who's younger, but more Yiras Shamayim.
Yes. Not just more Yiras Shamayim, that's the main thing, but also has the knowledge to. We're talking here about the knowledge to guide you for your particular issue. Someone can have great Yiras Shamayim, but he never learned the Tanya, doesn't know the Tanya. In this case, he's not the right person.
Right.
We're talking about someone who knows the Tanya, and he has Yiras Shamayim, even if he's younger in years, 100%. I'm not taking that away. But, but life experience is valuable. We should be paying for life experience. And today we dump out life experience. You're over the hill, right? Severance pay, right? The whole, Hillel used the word the industry. The whole industry has changed. The story with the Rebbe Rashab. One of the mashpiyim, when he opened the yeshiva, was a Yid named Rabbi Chaim Dalfin, who they called Rabbi Michal der Alter, Rabbi Michal der Elder One. Why? Because he was yet a chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek. And he was blind. And the Rebbe Rashab appointed him as one of the mashpiyim. So at a certain point, some of the staff said to the Rebbe, we barely have money to pay the regular mashpiyim and Rosh Hashiva and people, and he's, blind. I mean, he's a very Hasidic Jew. And the Rebbe Rashab said, just to see such a person is worth his salary. Just to see him. And that set the tone for Toim Chitmimim Lubavitch. And I would hope and pray it continues till Mashiach Tzidkenu. Rabbi Yoel Kahn was already, when I was learning by him, was much younger, but in his 80s, 85, 86, 88, 89, 90, it was hard for him to move. Baruch Hashem, but just to see such an individual was inspirational for, even those that didn't understand Yiddish, because he spoke only Yiddish, just to see him. And we have to train our children and grandchildren. This is very, very important. I try putting on my books many times pictures of older Hasidim. My book, Who's Who in Lubavitch, my series of books, for a long time, I had Rabbi Chaim, who lived in Kfar Chabad, wearing a casquette with a long white beard, carrying his talis and tefillin in a satchel over his, like 150 years ago in Russia. And I said to myself, that's the picture that I want to represent who's who in Lubavitch, who's who in Chabad. I want my children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren of future to know that this is the way a Yid's supposed to look and be. Anyway. Chevra, thank you for your wishes. I wish everyone to have only Atzlocha and Bracha, Gesund and Parnasa, Shidduchim Tovim, good health, and only Simchas. And we should only meet at happy occasions. And I said some of you weren't there. I was by the oil this morning. I put you all in my zettel, and you should know I wrote about my writing work and teaching work. And I came out from the oil and went into the video room. They have a video playing. The first thing I see is someone giving the Rebbe 2 books, and the Rebbe smiling at him, and the Rebbe says thank you, and he says for a book you have to pay. And then his wife passes with her child, and the Rebbe gives an extra $1 for the child. He is also part of the writing the books. And that's part of what I wrote about. So, to me, it's just, that's it. You don't need to, awesome experiences. I'm just telling you what happened, and believe me, if I would have not had that, I would tell you it didn't happen. Today, this is what happened. So the Rebbe should help that the tefillah should be neskabel and received, and everyone should be benched, and everyone will be benched, but we should see it by ourselves, our children and grandchildren and community, because they're the future. That we're learning Tanya together, and we have a nice chabura and all that. It's Gavaldi, beautiful. but we need our kids and grandkids to continue this with others. Then we're really connecting. Sei gesund, have a great Shabbos, everyone. We'll see everyone Monday. We're starting Tanya chapter 1. Monday, Tanya chapter 1. Bye-bye. Good Shabbos. Thank you.
Hey, the guy was on.